Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. When we think about masterful storytelling, we usually picture those massive 2-hour blockbuster movies or sprawling epic novels. But today we're actually doing something a little different. We're going to deconstruct a true masterclass in narrative efficiency, a 90-second cartoon script called The Last Cookie. We're going to break down its anatomy piece by piece just to see exactly how it perfectly executes classic storytelling mechanics in literally a minute and a half.
So how do you build a world, start a war, and forge an alliance in just 90 seconds? That is the ultimate question, isn't it? I mean, think about the sheer challenge here. How on earth do you build a convincing world, instigate a fierce war, and then completely resolve it with a forged alliance, all before your viewer has even finished their morning coffee? Short-form storytelling is an incredibly demanding medium, guys. There is absolutely zero room for filler. Okay, let's dive into this and see exactly how the writer pulls off this magic trick.
The secret? Well, it's all right there in the setup, because when your entire runtime is a mere 90 seconds, you absolutely cannot afford to waste a single syllable. Every word, every action line, every bit of description has got to do some serious heavy lifting. You've got to establish character personalities, the environment, and the central conflict instantaneously. If you haven't hooked the audience in those first 5 seconds, boom, you've lost them.
All right, moving into Section 1, the art of 90 seconds.
So here is the foundational DNA of our script. Notice just how incredibly economical this is. Setting, kitchen at night. It's a quiet, perfectly familiar place. But check out the second point. The prize is a single cookie, light like treasure. I love that. That description is doing so much work for us. By taking a totally mundane object, just a simple baked good, and lighting it quote-unquote like treasure, the writer immediately elevates the stakes. It's no longer just a late-night snack. It's literally the Holy Grail. We also see the tone is set as slapstick and buddy comedy, targeting ages 6 and up. So right from line 1, we know exactly what kind of wild ride we're in for.
And that brings us right to the inciting incident. Now, if you're familiar with storytelling mechanics, you know the inciting incident is basically the spark. It's that critical event or decision that begins a story's core problem and immediately upsets the status quo. In our script, that solitary, beautifully lit cookie sitting on the plate, that's our inciting incident. It's the irresistible prize that's about to ignite a high-stakes, 90-second war between our protagonists.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 2, setting up the rivalry. This part brilliantly illustrates how you create instant friction. Just compare these two characters. First, we have Bolt. He's a hyperactive robot dog made of scrap metal who speaks in short, literal bursts. He literally skids into the scene with his tail antenna spinning. And then, opposite him, we have Pickles. Pickles is a lazy, totally unbothered orange cat who is absolutely convinced he runs the house and is royalty. He just sort of lazily stretches into the frame. You have a high-energy machine clashing with a low-energy ego. By making them complete polar opposites from the jump, the writer guarantees friction, setting the absolute perfect stage for a classic buddy comedy dynamic.
Now watch how this character design translates straight into the dialogue. Pickles claims the cookie, and when he's challenged, he delivers this absolute gem. Finders keepers doesn't apply to royalty. I mean, in just 7 words, we know everything we could possibly need to know about Pickles. We don't need paragraphs of boring backstory explaining his pampered life. His totally smug, arrogant voice is encapsulated perfectly in that single line.
And how does Bolt respond to that?
He says, "You are cat, not royalty. Correction noted." It's snappy, it's literal, and it's perfectly robotic. Bolt doesn't even get angry. He just states a factual correction. This kind of conflicting dialogue immediately turns up the heat. Pickles' ego is bruised by Bolt's cold robotic logic, and honestly, you can practically feel the fuse burning down to the explosion.
Okay, on to Section 3, escalation and slapstick.
Let's actually trace the exact steps of this escalation. Step 1 starts with an initial claim by Pickles, "That's my cookie." Step 2 is Bolt's counterproof. His eye scanner beeps and projects a hologram that literally says, "Property of nobody." This is such a brilliant show-don't-tell visual gag. Instead of having Bolt just stand there arguing, the script gives us this super fun sci-fi visual that proves the cookie is fair game. And naturally, that leads straight into Step 3. Pickles narrows his eyes, and they both make this dramatic slow-motion lunge for the prize. I gotta say, this next part might be my favorite line in the entire script. It just reads, "A chaotic blur, pots clang, a rug flies, a lamp wobbles." The writer could have spent half a page choreographing some complex blow-by-blow fight scene, but they didn't. Instead, they used a single, highly evocative action line. By focusing strictly on the results of the fight, the clanging pots, the flying rug, the wobbling lamp, it directs a kinetic, totally hilarious slapstick sequence perfectly in your mind without bogging down the pace. It is just wildly efficient writing.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the flawless pacing mapped out over this micro timeline. At exactly 0 seconds, the inciting incident hits and the target is acquired. Fast forward to 30 seconds and we have our characters stand off in dialogue. By 60 seconds, we hit the climax with our slapstick blur. And right at 90 seconds, the resolution in the alliance. It is a perfectly proportioned 3-act structure. It's just completely compressed into a micro timeline.
Finally, we arrive at Section 4, the subversive punchline.
So the smoke finally clears. The plate is completely empty. We're in the final act now. And to understand why the ending works so well, we have to talk about the subversion of expectations. Basically, this is a narrative technique where a setup leads the audience to anticipate one outcome, but delivers a completely different, surprising one. The script spends a full minute building up this epic, destructive battle between a robot dog and an arrogant cat over one single cookie. As an audience, we are primed to expect a winner, right? We're waiting to see if Bolt's tech or Pickle's cunning will win the day.
But instead, we get a totally different reveal. We see a third, completely oblivious party. The real dog, who was just quietly sleeping under the table this whole entire time, wakes up and licks crumbs off his snout. It is such a brilliant, subversive twist. It instantly deflates the massive, high-stakes battle that just happened. Bolt and Pickles literally destroyed the kitchen for absolutely nothing. It's hilarious, it's surprising, and visually it's just perfect.
And just think about the massive shift in status that happens here in under a minute and a half. Bolt starts out as this confident aggressor, but ends up feeling completely betrayed by reality. Pickles goes from being the smug defender of his territory to being utterly defeated. And together, they go from bitter rivals ready to destroy each other to being completely united in their shared hatred of the real dog. That is a complete, incredibly satisfying character arc for both of them.
The script then seals this brand new status quo beautifully with its final lines. Pickles deadpans, "I hate that guy." Bolt replies, "Agreed." Alliance formed, and Pickles shoots back, "Temporary. Don't get used to it." They shake paw to claw. It's the perfect resolution, because they are forming a truce, but they're absolutely maintaining their established voices. Bolt is still super formal and procedural, and Pickles is still totally guarded and arrogant. Meanwhile, the sleeping dog just snores, blissfully oblivious to the new world order he just created.
So, wrapping up, we really have to ask ourselves, if an entire world can be built, a fierce rivalry established, a chaotic battle waged, and a completely new, satisfying alliance formed, all in just 90 seconds of runtime, what is stopping you from tightening up your own storytelling? Whether you're writing a presentation, an essay, or your own script, the lessons of The Last Cookie totally apply. Make every single word count. Establish high stakes instantly. Show, don't tell. And always, always look for that clever subversion that will delight your audience. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep analyzing, keep writing, and I'll catch you next time.